What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the Project Manga podcast. I'm Noxie.
It's your boy Kiko.
Eagle.
Back again with Tangential Tie-Ins, and we're met with another very special guest tonight. It's our good friend Silvers. You might know him from Twitter, Facebook. He is the other side of the coin. We had our good friend Hannibal on one of the last tie-in episodes that we did, and he runs a pop culture aesthetic page along with our good friend Silvers here called Extra Dimensional. And finally getting him on the show. Finally, slowly but surely bringing all of our people into the fold. How are you doing, bro?
Great, man. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. Do you have anything that you want to say about Extra Dimensional at all at the top of the hour here?
If you love manga, anime, comics, art in general, that kind of aesthetic, come to Extra Dimensional. We'd love to have you join.
Absolutely, and I'll put the once again down in the description for you guys. I'll put the link in there so you guys can check it out. It's an incredible aesthetic page. But yeah, tonight the topic is best villains or antagonists in anime and manga. And this is always a topic that I feel like gets a lot of love whenever it's discussed. It's definitely, one of the biggest things about anime and manga. I mean, like, there's no good adventure or, there's no good story really inside of fiction that doesn't have an incredible antagonist somewhere in there or some kind of villain. So and this is one where we kind of want to like do it a little bit different than we usually do inside of the tie-in episodes. Normally we'll just start the conversation off with some of the big names inside of the topic or related to the topic, and then go into a list of our personal picks that we want to touch on, and we're still going to do that. But at the front of the episode, the conversation that we're going to have initially is actually a question that I wanted to pose for everyone involved here on what makes a great villain inside of anime and manga. What are the parameters, or what's the metric that you use to judge or to rate, an antagonist or a villain inside of these stories? So I thought that would be a pretty fun conversation that we could have at the top of the hour here. And then once we start talking about some of the picks related to the topic, we can kind of like hold them up to, that metric and see if they if they hit all the marks, basically. So I can definitely go first if you'd like, unless anybody else wants to take it.
I'll take it.
Go ahead.
Let me jump in.
Let's go.
My favorite thing about villains, just across any story, is their motivation, right? Like you gotta have a villain that is not, I'm just evil to be evil. I'm just here to do bullshit because I don't like whatever. Like you definitely got to have a good backstory, a good reason for who they are. You almost sympathize with them a lot of the time. You're kind of like teetering on that line where you're like, it's again the meme, the dude pouring the Henny in the cup, like, I think I might.
It's kind of making sense here.
Yeah. So motivation's a top thing for me. But yeah. That's the big one for me. So somebody else go ahead.
That's massive. Yeah. Just piggybacking off of what you were saying, I'll just go ahead and go through my metric that I have here, because I kind of broke it into a couple different categories, right? So of course you have like motivations or their message, you know what I mean? And is a villain, like you were saying, Kiko, is a villain evil just for the sake of being evil? Or do they have a message, or are they backed by any amount of reason? You know what I mean? Like rational or irrational, like how well can the antagonist paint the picture of why they're doing what they're doing? So like, whether you agree or not, like, is that reasoning in any way interesting beyond just the idea that they need to be taken down? The next kind of metric that I have is pathos. I feel like pathos is really important in a villain, because is the antagonist written in any way where you feel for them to any degree? You know what I mean? Like, do we get a flashback of a shitty past? Or do we see other sides of this character beyond just an incorrigible maniac, that has to die or be thrown in jail? Personality and relatability is also really important to me too. Like, I've always been drawn to villains that are like more like on the charismatic side of things. You know what I mean? Like, does this character, ever just seem like a person you know, outside of our knowledge that they're a bad guy. You know, like, do they look normal, or are they attractive? You know what I mean? Like I don't, you know, of course you have like villains and antagonists that look scary and that look like monsters, but you know, are they someone who, you know, are okay to look at? You know what I mean? Because that plays a huge role in things. Like,
I think attractive villains are the best villains.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, me too. Definitely. You know, do they behave in ways that aren't always stereotypically detestable? You know, is also huge for me. Like, is their influence over the masses or their subordinates one of fear or respect? You know what I mean? Do they rally others to their cause because those people just don't want to die? Or, you know, do they genuinely believe in that villain's cause? You know what I mean? That's another thing that's huge for me. Development also is incredibly important, because if the villain changes in any way from the beginning of their character arc to the end of their character arc, that plays a huge role, you know, in whether or not they'll, you know, go down as legendary or kind of all right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
yeah, that's and those are the 4, you know, areas of critique that I hold any villain, you know, that I read about or watch to. You know what I mean? So
okay.
yeah.
You guys got?
I think you
anything to
guys
add?
covered pretty much the 2 big ones I was gonna.
What do you got?
To.
What were yours?
Well, I mean, the pathos, obviously, and then
Yeah.
the motive, you know. But I think personality is another big one for me.
Right.
know?
Like, do you ever just see a
have-
villain just chilling? You know what I mean? Like, is every time you see them talking about their dastardly plot, or do you get characters like Mahito and like Crollo Lucifer where they can be sitting and playing card games and like actually like having what can be, you know, identified as, you know, a loving or caring relationship with their people? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I like to also think if the bad guy is convinced that he's actually the good guy, that is always like when they're so steadfast and they're believing what they're doing is ultimately right, like the end justifies the means kind of thing. That's always big for me, you know. Like, are they believable and credible? You know, like credible is a thing. You know, that goes back to, are they crazy? Are they just being evil to be evil for no reason? Like, you need that. You need credibility with your villain. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 100%. Silvers?
Yeah. Honestly, it piggybacks on all 3 of yours, and that, for me, I think one of the best things about the villain archetype is the execution, the rise to power.
Yeah.
What do they do to get to where they currently are?
Yeah.
Do they go a ruthless path, a manipulative path? Are they constantly rubbing it in the hero's face, or are they the puppet master playing behind the scenes and not revealing themselves until the big event?
Yeah,
That's
I think
great.
Yeah.
Love it.
And again, depending on, you know, personality, their motive and pathos, it could be numerous things. So
Yeah.
I always love seeing where, you know, the path from, you know, the chapter 1 to current. It's great.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and
All right.
that's a really good point. Like, also, like, does the villain ever, like, because the villain always, like, a really good one pushes the protagonist to like their limits, right? Like, how far can they break them down? What do they have to like bring out of that protagonist in regards to growth or in regards to like psychological state? You know, like, how does that antagonist affect, you know, the protagonist in any kind of way? And it's always like that dichotomy that is either has a lot of depth to it, or, you know, you have a lot of stories where it's just, okay, here's the bad guy, we know he's bad, we know the protagonist has to beat them, there's a fight, and then it happens. Obviously that's extremely boring, but I feel like in the best stories that we see, you see intense amounts of development on both sides of the coin, right?
Yep.
And going back to what I was saying, like, how much of that is brought out of the protagonist? Like, does the villain almost rally the protagonist to their cause? You know what I mean? Or anything along those lines always makes for a gripping or a compelling story arc too. So
Yeah, a static antagonist or villain is almost just as bad as a static hero. I love seeing them learn and adapt and changing.
Yeah, because like, no matter what story you're reading, the most important aspect of it, especially in fiction, is those two characters, antagonist and protagonist. You know what I mean? And when you have development on both sides, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be equal. I feel like it's very rare when you get equal development of an antagonist and a protagonist throughout a story. But if you can do that, you're fucking killing the game. But I mean, there has to be something there besides this guy has a really bad idea. He's got the people, you know, under him that can make that idea reality, and the protagonist has to stop it because you know that's what they have to do. You know what I mean? Like we're not children. You know what I'm saying? So make it a little bit more interesting, please. Okay?
Exactly.
But yeah, thanks for answering that for me, you guys. I just wanted to have a quick conversation about that and see where you guys' heads are at, because once we start talking about, you know, some of these big names that, you know, are related to the topic, I kind of want to like reference back to that metric that we have for critiquing and judging them, and, you know, see which ones really hold up to all of those standards, right? Yeah. So like, what are some like obvious villains that have to be talked about on an episode like this?
Silvers. I think I nominate Silvers. Go ahead. You know, you should take.
Yeah, you're the new guy.
Away.
Take the reins.
Take
Go
away.
crazy.
All right. Man, I'm gonna have to give it to the GOAT of villains, and that's gonna be Griffith from Berserk.
Yeah, absolutely.
With the best haircut anybody's ever had.
His shit is floating, fam.
That was slash sarcasm.
If you want to avoid it,
no, I'm dead ass, bro. Like, he has one of the best.
Forward to the next portion.
Wait, what'd you say?
I said if you want to avoid spoilers on Berserk, now would be the time. to skip forward.
Well, Silvers, try to talk about Griffith as best as you can without spoiling anything, and then obviously, like, you know, like we kind of like want to cater to the people who might not be, you know, reading Berserk or might like watch this episode and get an interest to read Berserk. So like. Or watch Berserk, whatever they want to do for whatever reason they want to do that. But
if you're gonna watch it, watch the '90s version and forget everything else.
Yeah, and I've heard
version isn't that bad.
I've heard it on both sides. Like, I haven't watched the CGI version for any amount of time besides like a clip on Facebook here and there, and like aesthetically, like I'm kind of not feeling it. But I have heard people say that it's great. You know what I mean? So it's definitely up to you. But if you're new to Berserk, or if you haven't done Berserk, Silvers, please try your best to explain Griffith in a way that's non-spoilery. Of course, we can definitely go into things that he's done in the narrative that are spoiler territory, and before we go into that, just let me know, and I'll let people know that I'll put a timestamp down in the description for him. So.
Well, first off, when talking about Griffith and him being the main villain of Berserk, it really all depends on how you read Berserk, because there are two major important arcs in the story, and if you read one before the other, it gives a little bit of backstory on him. But if you read the other arc first, it's like this amazing slow burn Game of Thrones build up before this huge event hits. But to describe Griffith, he's charismatic, he's tactically ingenious, he's always seems like he's ahead of the game in every step he makes, and this is before he makes the big villain turn.
Yeah.
And when I mean charisma, I mean he is both physically attractive and just completely he's like a vacuum of charisma. When he just draws people towards him, and you know, him being a military leader, it's very, very fitting.
Yeah.
But as we go further in the story of Berserk, we find out that, you know, he's very, very driven. He's narcissistic. He's willing to not exactly do the greatest things to achieve his goals. And then, you know, he makes this insane, like, definition of betrayal times 100. And
yeah, man. And I mean, going into what you were saying, though, it's like when you're going through, like you were talking about how like there's like two different ways that you can like initially consume the story of Berserk, and I'll just go ahead and say it. You can either start with Black Swordsman, or you can start with the Golden Age. The Golden Age kind of like acts as like an origin of Guts, right? And that's honestly exactly what it is. It takes you right from the beginning and shows you who Guts is from birth to, you know, when he comes into his own. But if you start with the Black Swordsman arc, he's already an adult and he's already well into, you know, his story, you know what I mean? And
yeah, exactly.
But if you start with the Golden Age, like you don't know anything about Berserk at all, and you meet Griffith, like this is the farthest, like it for a while, like this is like you see like little bits of like his bloodlust leak out from here and there, and you start to see like little hints here and there that you might catch on to like as you're going through it. But like honestly, I started with Black Swordsman, but like I could see people starting with Golden Age and not having any idea that Griffith is gonna go crazy the way that he does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, being the weeb that I am, I had heard the stories about Griffith and stuff.
Sure.
But I started, because, you know, he's memed to hell and back.
Yeah.
I started with Golden Age first.
Did you?
And yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I heard the stories and stuff like that, and I'm like, I really want to see like how it all began and stuff.
Yeah.
I guess to go further into it, I'm gonna have to, you know, spoil a bit.
So I'll put some like, this is your warning right now, you guys. If you're not reading Berserk, or if you're not caught up, or if you're not any amount, you know, of length into the story, this is your warning right now. I'll put a timestamp in the description to let you know like when the spoiler territory ends for the story. But I know that like Berserk is like in the upper echelon of like stories that the internet rages about being spoiled for, even though it's like really old. But like I just want to be as safe as possible since it's a tie-in episode. So here's your warning now. Go ahead, Silvers.
All right. So when we meet Griffith, we're already quite a bit of ways in Guts' story. He's a young up-and-coming mercenary. And, you know, when it comes to the bands of mercenaries in the story of Berserk, you're always doomed to battle against another band or another army or so on and so forth. And he gets... Guts gets challenged by the Band of the Falcon, which is run by Griffith, and they actually have a one-on-one duel. And how Guts comes to be in the company of Griffith is when this duel happens, Griffith absolutely just destroys him. Whereas, you know, and we also get
see
a
some
really
impressive
good look.
shit from Guts in that situation too, like.
And we also see a lot of how much of a polar opposite Griffith is to Guts, whereas Guts is like, he's using just a giant great sword with just ferocity, just absolute barbarian. Griffith is using I want to say not a cutlass, but just a regular broadsword.
Yeah, with more of like a rapier style.
It's just all graceful movements, and within a few moves, he's already beat Guts. And the deal was, if I win, you become mine.
Yeah.
You serve me. And so, you know, he honors it, and we get, you know, introduced to his party and stuff like that. And then we get introduced to Casca, who is Griffith's right-hand soldier.
Bae.
Now, yes.
Bae-ass.
Absolute bae. Badass bae. Because she is also a very competent swordsman, really amazing warrior in the battlefield. And the story takes a turn where we're just focused on those three. Casca, Griffith, Guts, some other characters that also play out.
And the band of the Hawk is written like really well, like in regards to like camaraderie and whatnot. But like yes. Silvers was saying, like it really is just all about Casca, Griffith, and Guts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's crazy how much they focus on those three characters, but how much you still care about the other members of the Hawk at the same time throughout that Golden Age story.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, the camaraderie, they share wins, they share losses, and as they get more and more wins, the band of the Hawk or Falcon gets more and more reputable throughout the kingdom, and it gets to the point where Griffith is actually getting like land and stuff, and his whole goal when we first meet him is to have his own castle and rule over, you know, his own people and stuff like that. And so while Griffith is, you know, taking on most, if not all, the credit for a lot of these big victories because he's the leader, so he gets most of the credit, Guts is like, you know, I've been living as the swordsman, always fighting for Griffith. I don't know if I want to keep doing this forever. And it makes sense because, you know, eventually the wars are going to end. What are you going to do after that? And both he and Casca are, you know, growing closer and closer because whereas Griffith is taking a more tactical general-like position, these two are both on the battlefield in the thick of it, and they grow closer and closer, and eventually they pretty much fall for each other.
Right.
You know, and so after, at a certain point, Guts is like, I'm gotta leave, man. All right, we've pretty much
done everything that we were supposed to do. I've gotten what I needed out of this band.
You're gaining favor with the king. You're pretty much royalty. I got to set out on my own. I got to do my own thing. And so they have one last battle between Griffith and Guts. And for whatever reason, we're not exactly sure, but it seems like Guts just absolutely, like, he beats him. He in like a few moves, it was almost like a mirror of the first fight.
Yeah.
He just beats Griffith and he takes off and leads the band. And this just absolutely decimates Griffith, because we actually have learned throughout the story that whereas everyone like pretty much rallies around Griffith, Guts and Casca were the only ones that were like, we kind of see through all this. We're going to give it to you straight. We're not just a couple of yes men.
Yeah.
So the fact that Griffith actually lost something, he's not getting what he wants, even with all of his charisma, all of his battle readiness and all that stuff, it just sends him through a spiral. And so he musters enough strength to go out and get on a stagecoach and ride away and try and kill himself. He crashes the stagecoach, falls into like this pond, injures himself. He tries to kill himself, but all he can do is like slightly puncture his neck, and some of the blood gets on the behelit. And once the blood hits the behelit, he's approached by the Four, known as the God Hand, we find out. And as they approach, or as they show up, the band show up to, I don't know, help out Griffith after he crashed the stagecoach. And he's like, and the Four are like, all right, we're gonna take you to where you can make your dream reality. And so the God Hand warp him and the rest of the band of the Falcon to an alternate dimension, where the God Hand resides. And all of a sudden, the Four reappear back at the band of the Falcon, and they welcome them to this this glorious feast and let loose just this army of demons upon the band. And we are shown some of the most brutal, horrific, and like savage things done to essentially his underlings, his closest friends, everyone. Guts at this moment is just like, oh shit, demons, I'm gonna try and kill as many as I can.
Naturally.
And he has no idea what brought forth this. He has no idea that at this time Griffith is the one doing this.
Yeah.
And so he's slaying everything that he can. Meanwhile, everybody else, people that we've come to know and love, are getting absolutely destroyed, ripped apart, fed upon by these demons. And then Griffith reappears in God Hand form. He's now referred to as Femto. And he has one of the demons pin Griffith by his arm. And then he has another one of them bring Casca to him. And when he has Casca brought to him, I'm not going to paint it lightly. He straight up rapes her savagely in front of Griffith.
Guts?
Wow. And
in front of Guts.
In front of Guts, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And while this is happening, Guts is desperately trying to just straight up murder Griffith while his arm is pinned, and literally rips his arm completely off chasing after him.
Yeah, dude.
And it is the biggest betrayal I've ever witnessed in manga, anime, or even comics.
And that's what a lot of people say, you know what I mean? And it goes back to, like, I've heard people say Griffith did nothing wrong, or is Griffith really a villain?
Yeah.
Or is
yes.
and it blurs the line or whatever.
A lot of people are like, well, is
Femto
Femto different than Griffith? He retains all of his memories, all of his motivations. Femto is just Griffith stripped of any human inhibition.
Yeah.
He is.
And people can make a case that then Griffith himself is not really a villain or anything like that. But it's like, I don't know. You could probably tell it better than me, but I feel like if you do all of that, there's no way you're not a villain. You know what I mean?
The fucked up part is I think Griffith did what he did so that Guts would make him his focal point from then on out.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Joker Batman dichotomy.
He couldn't stand the fact that Guts left, so he did the one thing that he could to get him back to
make
the one
him
person
obsessed with him.
Yeah. Exactly. The really one of the worst things that happens too is that Griffith like reincarnates back as his human self and establishes himself as a kingdom ruler, and aside from Casca and Guts, no one actually knows about what happened.
Because everyone else is dead.
Everyone else is dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, super crazy. And and regardless of what you want to say about like the moral, like, you know, like the morality line being blurred in like one direction or another, it's like I think that most people will agree that Griffith is horrible. And
absolutely.
Yeah, and he definitely deserves to be on this list. Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel like I mean that's just like a troll meme. Cause
Griffith did nothing wrong.
For sure it's a troll meme, but like I don't think there's actually anybody that really believes it.
There are some people who really side with that.
How can you believe it?
God damn it!
I know, bro. I know.
The NSA's got like a new thing to fucking a monitor for. If you actually think Griffith did nothing wrong, you're on the NSA list. They're looking for you.
Oh yeah, hell yeah. I mean, and we can honestly dedicate an entire tie-in episode to Griffith, but I feel like that paints a good enough picture as to
definitely,
definitely,
and obviously, like without dedicating an entire episode to Griffith, it's going to be hard to really go into all of the reasons, like about his character and why, like he is considered one of the greatest villains of all time. Like, but we just don't have time for all of it. So,
no.
But thank you, Silvers, for painting that picture for us.
You're welcome, and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. But a lot of everything you said was super necessary. So, but yeah, man, Griffith for sure. What's another one? What's another really good? Should we talk about Shigaraki Tamura from My Hero Academia? That's kind of like the flavor. That's kind of like the flavor of the month, the year, like whatever, however you want to say it. But season 4 is booming right now in My Hero Academia, and although it's not really centered around, it's very good. And although it's not really centered around Tamura right now, Shigaraki, in my opinion, is the best villain in My Hero Academia. You know what I mean? And like you can have your favorites here and there, Stain, All for One, what have you, Redestro.
Oh my god.
But Shigaraki is the one that I kind of wanted to highlight at the front of the episode here before we start talking about like who we personally have on our list, just because I feel like inside of the story of My Hero Academia, Shigaraki has had the most focus, like paid attention to him, and he just like says a lot for the writing of the story in regard to like what a villain actually means in the story. You know what I mean? So he's like the first major villain that we're introduced to. He's got the most backstory up till this point if you're current in the manga, and I feel like even in the anime at this point, I mean, I know they're focusing on Chisaki or Overhaul right now, but Tamura is still kind of like looming in the background. You know what I mean?
There's some good.
We just got that panel of him like,
Yeah, but like even in the anime, like it's definitely the Overhaul arc, and it's going to be focused on the Yakuza. But there's some good thus far in this season. There has been some good Shigaraki dialogue where he's like, "All right, Toga and Twice, y'all are Yakuza now," and they're like, "No, what the fuck?" They're heated about it, especially Twice. I mean, it's so hard.
No, Toga too, because Toga puts the knife to his neck. Like, look, bro.
But Toga's so weird, you're like, but it's not like Twice, where Twice takes his mask off and he's like, we're human too. Like, you think this is, like what I should be doing, then I feel the most responsible for Magna's death. And fucking
and Twice harbors all of that like resentment towards the Yakuza because of Magna. So he's like, you're gonna send me to go work with the motherfuckers who killed our homegirl? Like what the fuck is wrong with you? You know what I'm saying? And that's one of the things that I feel like My Hero does better with villains than in most of the stories that I've ever read, is that there's contention inside of the villainous ranks. You know what I mean? Like you'll see dysfunctional arguments. It's not just, oh, captain, my captain at all times, no matter what you do, I'm going to submit to that will. they'll argue with each other and they'll fight with each other and they'll come close to killing each other to get their point across. I mean, you don't think, you know, it's not ever, maybe it'll actually like happen where there's some serious damage dealt, but like for right now, you know, in the story, it's just really big arguments that could potentially come to blows, but that's still so different than what you see anywhere else. And it just
well, and like Shigaraki, I mean, it shows like during these you know, this dialogue with Twice and Toga, how after that, like they like totally misunderstand. I mean, it's so hard to say that they misunderstand, because like I would have took it the same way. Like, what the fuck you mean we're going to work with these guys? Like,
right.
I mean, but you know, Shigaraki's like, okay, Twice, you feel the most responsible for this. This is something you can do. You know, like, I don't see these people as equals. You know, like he, you know, really wins them over in very few words back to his side, with his, to show that he's more than just that fucking scratchy crackhead psycho, you know, like,
yeah.
Oh my god.
You know, but like,
can we get this man some Burt's Bees? Can we get this man some fucking, like,
He
where's the
first shows
chaps?
up with the hoodie.
Yeah, like,
Get him some damn Vaseline.
right, something, anything, some kind of chapstick. I mean,
yeah,
we got to do
But-
something
Some
here.
kind of chapstick.
he wins them back too, because he's just like, yeah, I've never once seen these people as equal. Obviously, like, we're about to break them. We're about to get in here, infiltrate. You're about to win them over to your cause, and then we're about to fucking just fuck their whole shit up. And it's just like, I don't know why. I mean,
But he doesn't actually like give them any plans to betray
no,
the Yakuza, because when one of the precepts, when Shisaki's
Yeah.
homeboy uses his confession quirk,
Yep.
you know, and he's like, y'all gonna betray us? And they're like, no. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like,
you're right.
yeah, so it's like,
It's weird because he said enough for me.
yeah.
But I'm a sane human being that I would have been able to read in between the lines,
Yeah,
whereas
yeah.
Twice and Toga are as far from sane as
Right.
there is. in
Yeah.
the movie,
Right.
clearly. But
So
like,
that scene just confused me so much, because it's like, obviously in the back of their head they're going to do that eventually. So it's like, how did they not fess up there?
but I took it as Shigaraki can talk with them in the perfect way that he, you know, like he can just get on their level in such a way that
Where
they,
it doesn't need to be said.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Just try.
Because
And-
the way that he worded the question was there, did he tell you deliberately to betray us?
yeah.
And he didn't. So
No.
yeah, so that was just a mistake in the way of questioning, right? Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Which just goes into like him as a tactical mind too, because I don't think he knows about dude's quirk.
No, he doesn't. I'm sure.
So
he
did he like it's like
It's always possible.
It
Like,
asks the question, like, do they, you know, does he know, like, did he factor in that they could have a quirk like that on their side?
Yeah,
Or,
I mean,
or does he
because
just relate, or does he just know them on that level to where it doesn't need to be said, and not in a
No,
tactical way?
I think that
Yeah.
he considered that it's possible that you, especially in this world, a hero where like something like Hunter, where like abilities are so diverse, right?
Yeah.
And there could be anything. Like any
Yeah.
ability can be a thing. It's not like a traditional like martial arts manga or
Yeah.
a story where it's like
Right.
you got, you know, hand-to-hand combat and maybe like some key attacks, but like mind control and shit like that is definitely on the table in Heroes World. So
Yeah, straight up.
Shigaraki had to take that into account.
Eagle, do you have anything that you wanted to say about Tamura?
Well, Shigaraki is one where, like I said before, I just like his personality because he's one where, I don't know, I usually don't like him too much, but he's one where it's like he's kind of just bad shit crazy.
Yeah.
In a way,
But in a
lot
way
of
that's
his dialogue,
controlled,
like,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a big moment he's got coming up in season 4 at the end of it all. where, you know, Overhaul's getting hauled away. And
hey, spoilers.
I can't wait. It's Project Manga. Right?
Yeah.
He's
Anyway.
getting overhauled away.
Yo.
Ah!
And like,
Where
I
were you
really
at on
hope
that?
the
Sober
voice
to the
actor
pod guy.
for
I wasn't gonna do any on
Yeah,
this
yeah,
episode.
no, you're good.
But-
You're good. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Eagle. Yeah, what were you
I
saying?
really hope the voice actor for Tamura can get it. You know, I mean, I guess I can't expect too much, you know, but I really hope they do it in the way I wish they would.
Yeah,
I think
because
he
that
can-
scene is massive.
I think he's a really good voice actor for
Yeah.
Shigaraki
Yeah.
for sure. I
But
think
it's got to be like high pitched, like crazy, like
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And like Eagle was saying, like with his personality, I feel like Tamura has the kind of personality where he can be he's batshit crazy, but he's not batshit crazy to the point where it doesn't make sense to follow him. You know what I mean? Like you have, because everybody, you know, in the League of Villains, and now, you know, going later, you know, into the story with their situation now, it's like you have followers that are relatively rationally minded. You know what I mean? So like you can't just have this absolute lunatic that doesn't make sense at any time leading you. And Shigaraki has a certain like charisma that's not like on par with like, you know, a character like Frollo Lucifer or even Kisaki Overhaul, but at the same time people are drawn to him. You know what I mean? And there are times where he'll tweak out and show you just how villainous and crazy he can be, but at the same time he can dial it down and be coherent enough to tactical and get his point, you know, across in a way where, you know, it makes sense that he's in this lead position. You know what I mean? So
yeah, because he legit laid back.
Yeah,
he said, all right, you made a fool of me, I'm gonna play chess on your ass, send a couple of my guys your way, we gonna lurk at the end of this shit, you know what I'm saying?
But at the drop of a hat he can like, you know what I'm saying, like real quick, like, you know, turn on you in that way.
This man different
and it, you know, and when he does have his personality shifts, it doesn't seem awkward or out of place. You know what I mean? Like Kohei did a really good job of giving you little bits of his character, you know, especially, you know, where we're at in the manga now, we have like this really vivid picture, you know, of his character, where we've gotten all of this pathos and we have this backstory for him, and we see his origin, and a lot of things really make sense about why he is the way that he is, you know, but at the same time, he's All For One's main underling, you know what I mean? So he's learned a lot from All For One, probably in regards to charisma and in regards to, you know, like having a face that can be followed while keeping your, you know, real, you know, detestable and incorrigible and maniacal nature under wraps until it makes sense to see it. You know what I mean? So I just think that his character has been handled incredibly well throughout the series. And honestly, as a villain, you can't say enough good things about him. But definitely one that I feel like needed to be highlighted at the front of the episode here for sure. But with every character-driven tie-in episode that we do, we got a list of personal picks that we want to bring up that are relevant to the topic. So who wants to go first?
I think I'll take it.
Let's go.
I think somebody I wanted to talk about from obviously the season 1 of Promised Neverland was only the Gracefield house, and it's yet to come out yet, but so manga spoilers ahead. But
manga spoilers for Promised Neverland. I'll put the link.
Not manga spoilers, but
anime
spoilers. So if you're anime only,
same thing. That's what.
So what you're talking about happens in season 1?
No.
Oh,
it happens in Goldie Pond.
Okay, so manga spoilers for Promised Neverland. I'll put the timestamp down in the description here. Morning. Go crazy.
The person I wanted to talk about is Leovis.
Let's go.
It's just like Leovis. A lot of people criticize this part in Promised Neverland because they say it turns into like a regular battle shonen.
More so than what was before.
Sometimes you just gotta dump on people, you know?
Right. But like Leovis was the first time we were really introduced to like a super powerful ass demon.
Yeah.
And he didn't have super deep, like relatable motivations, but his personality was super fucking lovable. I loved his personality and just the way he moved around.
He had a little monkey.
And he was on his Rob Lucci a little bit.
I love my little monkey. I love Leovis for that.
And honestly, I'm glad that the story, like obviously we knew since the first chapter of the first episode that one of these demons was going to be a big bad of an arc. You know what I'm saying? Like regardless of the psychological thriller like story that was like set with the Gracefield house arc, like you always knew that they were going to have to go toe to toe with one of these things and a very, you know, advanced form of one. You know what I mean? So like say what you will about Goldie Pond, but it was super necessary to the story and obvious. So
I love that.
But we had no idea it was going to be like what it was.
Right.
Like a 500, 800-year-old demon. It was just a monstrous motherfucker, bro.
Yeah, and it's still like kind of like even in Goldie Pond, like it obviously didn't have the exact same feel as like Gracefield House in regards to like what kind of story was being told. It wasn't like a tried and true like Battle of the Wits, like high stakes because not a physical threat, but more of a psychological one. But like there is still, Goldie Pond still maintained a lot of the elements, you know, of suspense from the Goldie Pond situation.
And there was a lot of psychological. There was a lot of it was just
people got yacked on. There was a lot of suspense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, suspense definitely. But even like the psychological aspect of it, there was that just in the sense of battle because there was a lot of planning, a lot of this happened, like.
And they had to keep in mind like the rules of Goldie Pond. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't just like a free for all like run away from demons. It was they had set times where they could hunt and where you had time to get away. If you did get away, there was a reset time. You know what I'm saying? So there was a lot of like forethought and planning and tactical maneuverability that had to be employed there in that arc that still kept that butt clenchy tension from the previous arcs.
Yeah.
And then you find out that Leovis is also, when he find out that he's a member of the royal family.
Yes.
He's one of Legorolima's brothers.
Yes.
That's how you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was next level.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was with Bayon running it. Lord Bayon was the one who set the whole shit up, but he was like a secondary villain, even though this was his fucking whole shit to begin with, where Leovis steals the show, and it was meant to be that. Yeah. But like when
Bayon just got yacked on in the fucking hallway.
Yeah,
and I was kind of mad about that, but at the same time, like it was cool because you think that. Like I don't know, he was just gassed up to be bigger than what he ended up being, and it was not really a twist, but I was just like, damn, okay, so is that quick for Buddy? All right. I was like, all right.
They were kind of opposites, where Bayon kind of just rested on the fact that I'm a demon and I'm superior, where Leovis was like a warrior.
Yeah,
like he
didn't really underestimate, the enemy for a second, even though he wildly outstatted them. In every way, even in a multiple versus one situation. So
definitely.
Yeah. And that goes into like another thing about like villains, that I don't think that I really touched on inside of like my like parameters in our earlier conversations. Like how big of a threat do they pose? You know what I mean? Like is it an overwhelming like situation where you're like, I can't think of a possible way that they can come out on top?
Shigaraki right now.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Like how, not even just going into how evil they are or how terrible they are, but like how powerful are they?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, does it make sense given what you know about the main cast right now that they can beat this person? Because Leovis is one where you're like, hell no. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, that's a massive factor too. Yeah. Did you have anything else you wanted to say about Leovis as a character?
Got the most drip for demons, I'll tell you that shit.
Yeah, he definitely does. Bro,
he definitely does have the most drip for demons.
He's drippy.
He's got the trench coat.
And the monkey.
And the monkey. The monkey's a part of the drip, bro.
The monkey is too clean.
If I had that demon monkey, I'd just have I'll be set.
It was like a Cyclops monkey though, right?
I know, I don't even care how ugly that thing is. It's my little monkey.
It was still cute, but it was like ugly at the same time. It was ugly cute. That's rare. Leovis, I feel like I want to touch on Leovis as a character a little bit here because like I feel like his motivations outside of just like the thrill of the hunt, even though that was what was the most like focused on for him, because up until that point, like the demons are shown to be people that just that are like kind of like driven by hunger, you know what I mean, and like kind of driven by appetite and by taste, you know what I mean, like they're just like spoiled royalty, like kind of like on like the Celestial Dragons in One Piece level of things, but also driven by like a primal urge to like need the best quality of food. And then later on we realize why that is. But and we don't necessarily need to go into that right now. But Leovis was the first one that
the thrill of the hunt.
Yeah, that really like focused on a more honorable way to consume, these humans, I guess, to a certain degree, because you know, up until that point, you just thought like there was no running at all available for these kids. Yeah. It was you're being bred and raised and harvested, and we don't give a fuck about you. Whereas Leovis was like, go ahead and run. You could get away for a little bit, and then when you do, you could reset, you could rest, you could heal your wounds a little bit. But then it's back to business like at a certain time. You know what I mean? Like there was way more of a you know, personal, you know, thrill, like satisfaction than just these things are food. Now it's these things are food and entertainment and a challenge. You know what I mean? Which was something that was new to the story at that point. So I feel like that added a lot of depth to his character as someone who didn't really, no matter the quality of, I mean, he cared about the quality of the brain, but like no matter the quality, he still wanted to get it the way that was the most entertaining and the most satisfying in regards to, you know, physical, you know, satisfaction. Like I'm just trying to see where I'm at. You know what I'm saying? Like he was still arrogant and he was still confident, but he wanted that to be hard. Whereas everybody else is just like, put that shit on my plate. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I feel like
I'm trying to hunt.
Yeah, I feel like Leovis was really cool as a villain in that regard too. Yeah, but good pick. Really good pick.
Definitely.
I'm gonna go next because I don't know if anybody else is gonna have this kind of pick on their list, and I wanted to introduce like a different, you know, concept than maybe anybody else might have on there. But we're looking at a story called Akira, and it's a manga and it's a movie. And we're looking at Tetsuo!
Oh my lord.
From Akira. And this is a different kind of villain than I was used to when I was introduced to it, because it really is just like the story of a guy watching his best friend and his descent into madness, just watching him turn into a monster. You know what I mean? And it's a different kind of villain than I was used to, because usually it's just like there's either this unknown bad guy that comes into the fold and starts wreaking havoc, or it's a well-known bad guy by like everyone around that still the main character isn't necessarily connected to in any kind of serious way. But but with Tetsuo, it's like it kind of just hits the mark on all of like my parameters on what makes a good villain, and you know, or what makes a, you know, a bad villain in the beginning conversation that we had. But like you almost right away, you know, you get like this backstory of Tetsuo, and you get this pathos for him because he was abandoned by his family, you know, and he was taken in by like the government of like Neo Tokyo, because this is a, you know, it's a cyberpunk story, so you know, it's in a dystopian future where, you know, corporations run the planet, and it's always in like that kind of setting where you have a main character that like is sketched out by society. You know what I mean? And none more so than one that is abandoned by his family and given to this government. You know what I mean? Or taken by this government. You know what I mean? So Tetsuo's already kind of sketched out in that regard. And then him and Kaneda, you know, like come up in this biker gang, and, you know, Kaneda's the leader. So Tetsuo's kind of like, you know, Kaneda's kind of like an opposite story, you know, to Tetsuo, you know, to a certain degree, like, you know, but they also like kind of lead like a similar lifestyle. So there's things that connect them, but there's also a lot more things that contrast them. And, you know, Tetsuo like kind of like sees him as someone to like look up to, but also someone to be jealous of. So like you get like this precedent set, you know, like in their situation that kind of foreshadows this conflict that's coming up, right? And then they get into that like crazy like biker crash, like, you know, that you know, that with that small child or whatever, that like kind of like starts this whole thing, because it awakens Tetsuo's psychic ability as like an esper, right? So like and then, you know, the rest is history. I don't need to tell the whole story of Akira, but it's just so crazy seeing him go from where you see him, you know, in his connection to Kaneda in the beginning of the story to just crazier and crazier, and he's trying to find Akira, and he wants to destroy Akira, and he's wreaking havoc and just cutting a fucking, what's the word I'm looking for here, a swath through Neo Tokyo. You know what I mean? And like seeing his rise to power and like him getting drunk with that power was just like such a cool thing to see, not only Tetsuo go through, but also Kaneda go through, and also everybody else around that's involved. And, you know, there's a lot of fodder that gets evaporated in Tetsuo's wake, which is always really cool to see. You know, and it's just like this, if you haven't seen Akira, holy
fucking
shit,
beautiful.
Yeah,
watch
you
it.
know, cyberpunk body horror, you know, just a character going mad with power and a best friend trying to. And it's always sad when you see that a character cares for the one that's going crazy and wants to try their best to bring them back to, you know, that version of them that they care about, and you just see them getting farther and farther and farther away from, you know, from that point, and seeing how that character deals with it. You know what I mean? So
Right.
Yeah, what was different too is the point of view that the villain wasn't on the other side. The villain was on our side as far as what we're viewing. Like we're rolling with the villain as far as our point of view in this movie.
Yeah.
And that for me, that just personally, I was like 12 years old when I rented fucking Akira from Blockbuster. Like dead ass. I fucking rented that shit. Did not know what the fuck I was doing.
Yeah.
Watched that shit and I was like,
oh
yeah,
man.
Yeah.
What did I do? What did I do?
I fucked up. I fucked up.
Oh yeah.
Timeless. Timeless classic.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So good shit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's all I really had to say on it. It's just a different kind of villain, you know. That and when I started, you know, this segment, I kind of like said that Tetsuo kind of like hits all the marks, you know, in my parameter, but like he really doesn't. But he, but he's still like
classic Noxie.
Yeah.
He hits all of them, but
still,
none of them.
But still, he's an overwhelming threat. He has the pathos. There's relatability there. You know what I mean? You get development. But like he's not very charismatic, and you know, and in regards to like it becomes a body horror. So it's like he's not really all that great to look at. He doesn't influence the man, like he doesn't rally like a lot, you know, like you know what I mean? Like it's just a crazy guy going crazy with crazy psionic powers that rip you apart and throw you around the room. It's amazing to see, but like a perfect villain, Tetsuo probably isn't, but one of my favorites nonetheless. So, yeah. Who's next?
Good pick. I think Silver should go.
Let's go. What you got?
I got Gendo Ikari from Evangelion.
Okay.
Wow, did not see that coming.
Okay.
Best Dad Award. No. Yeah, and where he's not like the established bad guy, he is pretty much the established overlord of Shinji and the rest of them, that rest of the characters, because he's running Nerve. And he's a villain because he's ruthless towards our main character. He's just like the worst father. He's completely distant. He's
one of them,
does not show an inch of respect towards him, and he was gone for most of his life too, so that really doesn't help.
Fucked up.
And you know, he doesn't care as long as his goal is met, and he even has bosses above him that like are saying, hey, we need this human instrumentality project to go through. You need to be a team player. And Gendo's like, yeah, I'll do that. And secretly he's like, nah, fuck that. I need to be reunited with my dead wife and all that. So,
yeah.
So you get like these side motivations, like outside of like what you are normally like originally, like initially met with, that like kind of like gives you a little bit more insight into exactly what he's thinking and what he's trying to do.
Yeah, and
but you never stray away from, okay, this guy sucks.
No,
he always sucks.
Yeah.
and the tragic part is there's like a couple of scenes that we see him and Shinji where it's like he actually kind of opens up to him,
right?
For like, and then just no,
it's not enough.
Cold exterior. I'm, you know, these people are working.
The shining glasses in the light.
Oh.
Bro, the Nerve round table is one of the fucking like most. I'm just
with the tree of light above him and shit.
Bro.
Oh man, it's like
fuck, it's so good.
But yeah, he's just a piece of shit. I mean, there's no other way to say it. Like he just takes advantage of his son and treats him, you know, just like, hey, basically, if you can't get in this fucking giant mech monster that you synchronize your body with, and any damage it takes, you take. And it's like, if you don't do that to fucking defend our fucking planet, then you're a little bitch. Like,
I don't want to see you again. Ever.
Yeah, this is fucked up, dude. But I mean, I kind of get it in the sense of Shinji and Asuka and fucking Rey are the only ones that can pilot Ava, and if they don't, the planet's gone. So
yep, they're all different levels of broken too. So it's like,
yes,
hell
yeah,
they all got their own thing. But yeah, Gendo Akari,
Gendo, baby,
piece of shit.
Yeah, and he's smashing Blondie. What's her name again?
Akagi.
Yes, Akagi.
Oh my god,
he's smashing Akagi.
Get him out of here!
And
he's trying to clone
and her mom,
and he's trying to clone his wife
and her mom.
Yep.
What the fuck?
Gendo is on some shit. Like
intergenerational tapping.
Like, straight up blown. He said,
"What the fuck,
dude?
It's been so long since we've talked about Evangelion like 4 or 5 times on this channel, and like,
but like briefly, we didn't
there's
go
so much
like
that happens, and like it's. Just,
I made the mistake of watching that all in one weekend. I wanted to fucking kill myself.
You're tripping.
Just like,
some of you gotta take a couple breaks here and there.
Yeah, that does some psychological damage to you.
Yeah.
Watching Evangelion.
Like I gotta go to work on Monday.
I had to watch like 4 Disney movies to counteract that shit.
Yeah,
nuts.
Oh man, hell yeah, dude. Gendo, yeah.
That was my pick.
Yeah, good pick, great pick.
All right, I can go next. Then I can go next. All right, well, I got none other than the Black Angel Shinobu Sensui.
Let's go, baby!
I love Sensui so much because, especially at the time when I was getting those Yu Yu Hakusho episodes, like I mean, I may still dress in a lot of black, but like back then I was really dressing in black. I was like, and I'm a tall, lanky, long neck ass Shinobu Sensui looking.
All you're missing is the Jerry curl.
Yeah,
you need that.
Yeah. I need, and I could have got that back in the day, but I can't do that now. But whatever. But no, I just love Shinobu for so many reasons. Like, Sensui has 6 different personalities, which he needs. Well, on top of his own, Shinobu Sensui is his core, who he is, and then he bursts into this. He's given a job by Koenma to stop these humans from going through this. It's called the Feast of Human Vices, where it's basically they're just torturing demons, and basically the roles are flipped, where the humans are the demons and the demons are the like the demons are the victims.
Yes,
where humans are just being like the biggest pieces of shit they can.
Which was an incredible angle to go into in this story at this point too, especially coming out of the Dark Tournament arc where. Yeah, and it was a new direction, something totally different, and like Yusuke, our main character, wouldn't have. It's unbothered by this because he's not an intellectual like Sensui is. Like Sensui's got a lot going on. Yusuke is just like, I'm about to throw hands, like like always.
And so fucking it's just so tight because once he bursts into the mansion of this fucking ritual festival thing that's going on where humans are torturing fucking demons in the most gruesome, nasty ways possible. He loses his mind and kills all those humans. First time, he hurts what he, in his mind, were, righteous beings. He had like a very black and white sense of morality. Like demons are bad, humans are good. That's that. Yeah. And when he breaks into this shit, it really fucking just fucks his whole view up on everything. And so he kills a bunch of these humans that were doing all this fucking shitty stuff. And that's when he creates his second personality, Kazuya. I think it's Kazuya. Yeah, where he's just the crazy fucking guy who will murder and be ruthless and all that kind of shit. And it's awesome because it's awesome because like throughout the chapter black arc of Yu Yu Hakusho, it's not Shinobu Sensui that we're actually dealing with. We're dealing with Minoru, his other personality, who's the very likable, very charismatic, fucking coercive, guy who can bring people onto his side. All the best words, like, and it was great to see their interactions, him and Yusuke, because that shit don't work on Yusuke. Yusuke's like, I don't understand all this shit you say. You know, like,
my gut telling me one thing, and I'm throwing hands because of that.
That's it.
Yeah,
so
you're getting socked in your jaw just off the way I feel. Like, I don't care what you say to me. And Chapter Black is so important because, like you were saying a little bit, like it does kind of like flip your POV around in regard to how you view what's right and what's wrong in this world that's been established so far. So
yeah,
definitely. You know, and that's what makes Sensui such a great villain, is because Sensui was one of the first villains that I was like, I don't think I want him to lose. You know what I mean? So
over the head on that one.
You know what I mean? So, and that was massive, you know, in regard to my forming of my idea of what good versus evil looks like in anime. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, and I kind of related to Toguro a little bit too, but like only from like a barbaric like warrior standpoint in the story up until that point. You know what I mean? It's like, because we had gotten a couple stories here and there where it's just a really strong dude that's waiting for someone to beat his ass. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
well, that's what Toguro was for sure.
Yeah. You know, and outside of that, like meathead philosophy of where's the stronger opponent that can release me from this, you know, this boredom basically that I have on some Saitama shit. You know, on some Boros shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, there was a little bit more depth that went into Toguro in that regard, but because obviously you get like a lot of like his background with Genkai and whatnot.
Yes.
You know, before he made that deal. But Sensui really took that to a different level in regards to that morality line being blurred. You know what I mean? And it made more sense on a logical front, on a rational front. You know what I mean? Like, you still knew that he had to be whooped, but it felt like, I don't want to use the word dirty, but like it just didn't feel as right when he lost than it did with Toguro. You know what I mean?
He was almost as much a victim as he was a villain.
Yeah, like that was exactly. That was and I mean, I guess you can kind of say that with Toguro too, but like way more for Sensui. And like that was the first time where like an antagonist lost and I just had like a bad taste in my mouth. You know what I mean? And like that's huge as a writer to be able to do. You know,
well, it's the first antagonist you get that's a human.
Exactly.
They've all been demons. Been demons so far. And it's like they all have some kind of like, you know, whatever wicked fucking plan or whatever the hell they're doing, and why they're clearly evil. Except for actually younger Toguro. Was very. He was pretty much a good guy who really just wanted to fight. He wanted the strongest fight possible. I mean, he just wants to fight. He just wants the strongest fight possible.
He has a very similar story to Garo.
Because it's like he only kills Genkai. Well, I guess I can't say he only kills Genkai because of he just wants Yusuke to be as strong as he possibly can be. And like when Genkai, like, I don't know what you want to call it, just like takes over Pooh's body, I guess, Pooh's floating over like, hey, Toguro, you want to get the fucking strongest Yusuke possible? Go kill one of his friends. And he's like, oh, bet. Kumabara, where you at? You know, like, Kumabara! You know, so like he didn't even kill Kuwabara. He like intentionally missed vitals because it's just like he just wants the strongest fight. Where
there was still a little bit of humanity there too, which I think was the point that Togashi was trying to write.
Well, and I love Yu Yu Hakusho, and that's why I didn't want to pick Toguro and I wanted to pick Sensui because I just align more with Sensui regardless. Straight up. Because
the relatability is definitely way more there for Sensui than it was for Toguro anyway.
And that was one thing I forgot to add on what makes a great villain is, can you see yourself in their place?
Yes.
Like, could you see, you know, like being even coerced by this person? Could you follow this person? You know, like if
follow Sensui, dog.
Like if your life,
I get a territory. Yeah, come on, bro.
Territory.
What's cracking?
But yeah, I think that obviously you have to go through some kind of like fucked up trauma to want to like follow some of these kind of people. But like you know, Sensui in all of his the other 6 psychics that he had with him. They all had some kind of, you know, kind of tragic backstory. Not, I guess we didn't get into all of them, but we got into a lot of them where, like, you know, like there was, especially like the ones that turned good, like the game master was like some kid that was just neglected and he just sat in the fucking arcade all the time or whatever. And I don't know, was easily coerced into this because whatever, didn't understand the magnitude of the situation.
Yeah.
You know, it's things like that where, you know, if maybe you're naive to the situation, or you're you know, just jaded by whatever bad shit you went through, you could follow somebody like this, you know, or see, you know, the good in what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But a couple quick things to finish this off is that not only do Sensui and the 6 other psychics he rounds up, because he says the 7 of us will burrow a hole or whatever, and when God, one of the psychics can read minds, and they read that mind, and they were like, okay, so it's him and his 6 psychics, and it was like, no, it's him and his 6 personalities.
Yes.
Him and all 6 of himself are the one who are going to dig that hole, and him and all 6 of his personalities. Not only that, but him and the 6 of his psychics both represented 7 deadly sins, and they all had, you know, one. You know, it's crazy parallel how they could do his 6 personalities, or 7 total, with this actual being, and then him and his 6 psychics depict that they did that. And like, I don't remember exactly like who's who. Like, I remember like Elder Tagoro is I want to say he's gluttony, because, you know, he just like absorbs and
everything.
just takes it in, and that kind of shit. But yeah, they were all, you know,
metaphors.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, one of my favorite, and the Ryushuyukin style, man. I just love big ass long legs kicking, big old legs.
I love kickers. Like,
me too.
Yeah,
more than punchers.
Me too.
Spirit gun, what?
Yeah.
I'm about to
Just
fucking
roundhouse
kick this ball
kick.
at you.
Like Walker, Texas Ranger, you're goof.
Well, and the explanation on the Ryushuyukin style was like really tight too. When Genkai is explaining, he's like, Ryushuyukin is the most elegant style of martial arts known to man. You can't even learn it until you've mastered all other styles of martial arts before you're even able to, you know. And it was just tight that, you know, his energy would just form in front of him. Like, he wouldn't use his hands or anything, like just a ball. Like, you just see these like tiny little fucking energy particles form this little ball in front of him. Then he kicked that bitch, boom, you know, and that shit was, I loved his whole shit.
Yes, everything about Sensui is great. That's an incredible pick.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Moving into a lightning round here, I just have a couple that I wanted to highlight, and then you guys can go ahead and fire off whoever you want. But I want to talk about Esthith from M.A.N.G.A real quick, because
scary bitch.
It's super scary, and she kind of like falls like along the lines of, you know, a villain that has people that are rallied to her cause, like kind of like halfway because of fear and halfway because of her charisma. You know what I mean? Like the people that follow her, like Wave and an old girl, I always forget her name, but she has that like animal like bite her body part so she gets a different weapon. I can't remember exactly what her Tegu is called, but like, and obviously there are some like things that
I want to say it's Koro.
Yeah, I think it is Koro, but like obviously they have a couple screws loose, you know, in their personalities as well. I mean, besides Wave, really, he's the most relatable member of her team, but she fits the bill of a villain because of how overwhelming her power is in regard to like how is the main character going to beat this, because her Tegu is busted, you know what I'm saying? Like just complete control over ice to the point where she can stop time, which is nuts.
Wow.
And you have these danger beasts that are like of varying levels and whatnot, and she's just soloing them, one-shotting them, like, you know, and you get her backstory and whatnot, where she's been ruthless for a long time, you know what I mean? And it makes sense why these people are following her, but you have, even though she rules with an iron fist, people are just genuinely attracted to her, which is a trait in villains that I feel like is really important, especially in the newer generation of things. You know what I mean? So I wanted to highlight Esthith there a little bit. Another villain that I wanted to highlight. Actually, somebody else go first, because I kind of just like lost it from my mind. It kind of like slipped my mind. Who's got a lightning round pick they want to fire off while I think about this?
I think one we could talk about quickly is like Orochimaru.
Yeah, bro.
Fuck yeah, that's who I had on mine.
He was unique in that, like, he was a villain where you've seen him get handled a couple times, but like you honestly never knew if he was done for. Like, cause he would always just fucking melt away. Back. Like, literally like
Naruto Naraku.
Anytime you see Orochimaru get taken out, you're like, I don't believe it.
But he'll be back, though.
He'll be back.
You're like, he's coming back.
Wearing new skin and everything.
He's coming back.
That's a Ron Burgundy. I don't believe it.
Yeah, absolutely. So and that's another angle of a villain that like I don't feel like we've touched on really, is is outside of everything else that you can say about him. It's like the comeback factor is really intense. You know, and I feel like we can talk about Naraku in the same breath because he's on that same shit. You know, so I feel like both of those are like really good in tandem to kind of like bring up in a lightning round. Yeah. What do you got on your list, Silvers?
Oh, my list?
Yeah,
Vincent
a
Villaju
quick, like,
from
who?
Vincent Villaju from the Cowboy Bebop movie.
I was say the movie on the train.
On the train.
I saw that shit in the theater. That's the first anime movie I ever seen in the theater.
That is, yeah, me too, straight up.
Nice,
No.
nice.
I think I saw Pokemon first movie first.
Well, Pokemon doesn't count.
Why?
I don't know. It does.
But that was before Cowboy Bebop, though, right? Pokemon
yeah,
first
I saw
movie.
Pokemon first movie
because
before.
Cowboy Bebop movie was like 2001, right?
Yeah, it was early.
And I don't think we got in America till like 2003.
Yeah.
I thought I was like, yeah. I thought I was damn near an adult by the time.
Yeah, for sure. Hell yeah, though. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, he just, opens up, he's just walking on this like overpass and all of a sudden explosion behind him. And, we find out he's just this badass super soldier that wants to, wreck chaos on everything because, he got effed over by the government. And leave it to our lucky bounty hunter team to go after this guy. And we see some of the best fucking fights.
Yes.
Him and Spike.
Yes.
And probably one of the best 1v1s, but yeah.
That train shit goes so hard.
When he hits him with that Kalima.
Oh my god, yeah. Dripping the gunshot.
In my ribs.
Like, oh my god.
Yeah, dude, that shit was so like I felt that in the spot that Spike was feeling it. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like, and I feel like that was like the biggest threat. And obviously it's meant to be up until that point, you know what I mean? Like, because I'm pretty sure, I don't even think that I had seen all of Cowboy Bebop before I watched that movie.
I mean, you don't have to. I mean, it takes place like in the middle of the series, so
you can pretty much watch that as a standalone movie without seeing the anime at all.
Yeah, but I was just like, Spike, what's going on, bro? Like, I was like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like that thing where people were like, Keanu Reeves should be Spike. I'm like, dude, Keanu Reeves now would be a badass fucking Vincent.
Yes.
Yeah, he looks like Vincent.
Beard and everything.
Yeah, that's perfect.
If they ever do live action, get Keanu on that Vincent shit.
That would be incredible. And he's got the martial arts background. Bro, who's gonna be Spike in the live action adaptation? Fucking
Harold from Harold and Kumar.
Oh my god, I remember that now. Wow.
Hey, let's see what he does.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't expect it, and you don't know what to think. So I'm just gonna go into it with an open mind.
Yeah, for sure.
Done by Netflix, so
yeah.
All right, well, good pick there, Silvers. What do you got?
Thank you.
One quick one I got just as man, we talk about Kenshin a lot, but like Shishio was very fucking scary.
Dude,
like,
Shishio was super important to the story too.
Shit.
So it's like he was the biggest villain in the story. So,
and I just love when Hoji is his name, his like assistant dude who wasn't with the Juppon Gatana, and was like he's like the guy who's kind of, I mean, Shishio's obviously has the big plan, but this guy's got like the background plans going on, to make sure the big plan happens, I guess, and setting up all the other shit. And he's like, hey, I don't think like the shit you got going on is, the most efficient. I think we can make this a little bit more efficient in some way. And Shishio like takes off his fucking glove and just like grabs him by the skull, and his hand is like burning on him.
Brutal.
Yes.
And then Hoji's like, I see it. I see the light of getting my skull burnt, and it's like you just undergone a baptism by fire from Shishio or whatever, and that stuff like that where that's what it was.
Fucking sword, man.
I mean,
man, it was more so the sword was crazy, but it was more so the fat that he soaked it in.
Yeah.
Well, it's not that he soaked it in; it's that it was serrated, like very finely,
skin and all that.
That anytime he cut a body, that the fat just soaked into the blade or whatever. And so, man, the Homuradama, the fucking flare.
Homuradama, yeah, for sure. And Shishio's design is so incredible because like it was one of the first times that I was like super intimidated. I don't want to say it's the first time because I was really scared of Legato too, but Legato more so because of the character that we learned about.
Yeah,
but his design was pretty intimidating too, but like Shishio more so is like
a burnt mummy, man.
Yeah, like holy shit, if I saw this motherfucker in person, like bruh, like if you're walking down the street, I'm crossing the street to pass you.
He's the guy that succeeded Kenshin.
Yeah.
Yes.
That picked it up after he left.
Yes.
Yep. He was the manslayer in the shadows. Well,
Yeah.
Kenshin was the manslayer in the front or whatever.
Yeah, straight up.
And fucking man, Shishio just had. I mean, he definitely had charisma. Like he these people followed him because
even though he was so ugly. Motherfuckers were glued to his hip.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yumi
definitely.
giving him the bath and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of like the scariest like scenes too. Like when you get Sojiro's backstory and Sojiro just like runs out of the shed and comes around the corner.
Yeah.
And see Shishio and like his bandages are loose too, and he's like you can see like skin,
everything.
you can see skin and stuff. And he cuts one dude. The dude's trying to slice like this, and he cuts him right at the elbows, and both arms fall off.
Yeah.
And then he like splits him down the middle. You're like, he just literally cut a human being all the way down a half. And it's like this isn't like one of these just gruesome to be gruesome animes, like either. You know,
there
like,
was a point to that.
Yeah, like this is like a display of power. Like he could literally split a human skeleton like that. Like that shit is wild, you know.
Another one of those like how is the protagonist going to deal with this kind of situation? But like inside of a less superhuman story than you might be used to in seeing something like that. Because we're Esdeath on like the side of overwhelming superpower side of thing. How is the protagonist going to beat this? Shishio is a little bit more grounded, but he's still doing things that like. All right, wait a minute. You shouldn't be able to do this. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's like, yeah, for sure. Shishio's an incredible pick, and and I might as well just as like my last like lightning round touch on. I just want to talk about Legato because Legato was the first time where, and I said it before on this channel. I think in the first classic animated episode that we had with Classic, but Legato was the first time that there was a situation posed with the main character where even if they win, they lost. You know what I mean? So like it creates this like cringy, like awkward situation where it's like you want Vash to do the damn thing, but if he does, then Legato gets what he wanted. And and how is that going to be for Vash? You know what I mean? Like you have this moral dilemma here where, you know, and it goes back to it's kind of hard for me to explain exactly where I'm coming from with it, but people who have seen Vash the Stampede know what I'm talking. You know, people who have seen Trigun know what I'm talking about. It's like that scene where he's like, "Kill me, or I'm gonna kill everybody else." What do you want to do?
Yeah,
are you gonna kill me and like cross that path that you don't want to? You cross that line you don't want to cross, and then you're no better than me or no better than us over here with the gung ho guns. You know what I'm saying? Like. You know, or are you going to do what you have to do for the good of everybody else? And you don't know which one you want more because you want to side with Vash and his ideals, and you want him to deal with Legato in a way where he could still be Vash, but he's not really presented with a way to do that.
No.
You know what I mean?
Legato knows what Vash's line is.
Yeah, exactly. And he pushes him to it and wants him to come over. And it's always a scary situation where you have a villain that isn't afraid of death. And actually invites it. You know what I mean? Because then it's like, are you really coming out on top at the end of this conflict if you do what you need to do? Like, and you're sitting there like, what other way can he win? Like, Vash doesn't have any other powers besides blow you to smithereens. You know what I mean? Like, there's no binding. There's no, you know, there's no like, you know, there's no talk no jutsu. Like, really, you know what I mean? Like, there's there's just rinse this motherfucker or watch everybody die. You know what I mean?
That's perfect because that was going to be one of my personal picks, and I can keep going on it. Really,
Legato?
Because Legato, I got Legato and Knives, and I wanted to do them both.
Do you?
Because it's one of these times rarely where you get two villains in the same series where they're both have their own shit, where they're both scary for their own reasons, and they both have their purposes, and especially like if you've read the manga too, because Trigun there's more to Trigun than the anime, of course, and that's kind of how a lot of those 26 episode animes go. Where they're trying to condense a bigger story in 26 episodes, and I feel like Trigun does a wonderful job of it. But they don't really get to tell you like Legato's backstory, and Legato was a sex slave, and Knives basically wipes out this fucking, you know, sex slave fucking village. You know,
now you have pathos, and you and you don't think that you're going to get that for someone who's introduced as someone on that side of crazy that you don't think you'll ever be able to relate to or care for.
Yeah. Well, and especially because, like, man, Legato's so crazy because so he has like telekinetic powers. Yeah. And the reason for that is because Knives shoots off Vash's left arm, and Legato connects that left arm to his body. And now he has some of the abilities of a plant, because that's what they are. They're a plant. Like their race is a plant. Vash and Knives are
test
the
tube children.
Because Knives is in here too, where Vash has to, you've already touched on it, make this decision on, am I going to kill Legato? Because his telekinetic power is basically making people kill each other. Yeah. And in the anime, towards the end, the final point where Vash does have to sit there and just blast him point blank, blow his brains out right in front of him. Yeah, it's because he's about to make all these fucking people about to rape Meryl and Millie.
Meryl and Millie, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, he does it, of course, and he's like
such
lost.
A huge moment for the story.
It was, and Legato does a lot of things to further the despair of Vash. Like right with the first time you see him, he like shows up in the town that Vash is like playing with kids. They're like playing, you know, soccer or whatever with these kids, and fucking Legato just like crosses his path, and like the anime does it so well with the fucking sky turns red, and you get the guitar riff like you know, like crazy shit, you know, and it was so good.
And I liken that to that scene where Deku like first encounters Tamura.
Yeah,
in
it's
My
very
Hero
similar
Academia,
because they're both sitting on the benches.
Yeah,
and
oh shit,
and they have a telepathic conversation. Yeah, because Legato says, you know, like death is intoxicating. Like I could kill every man, woman, and child in this whole town in a blink of an eye if I wanted to. You know, and it's like, but if I did, you know, like, what are you going to do? You know, basically, like, are you going to just kill me, or, you know, but that's not what we're here for. I'm not going to do that. Yeah. And I'm basically here to tell you that your life's going to end, and I'm about to send these demons after you, the gung ho guns. Yeah. And in the manga, he gives them this coin case where it says each gun ho gung has a different coin to put to the case, and once you get them all, then you can face Knives. Basically, like you can't even do it until you get all these coins. Which that's not how it goes in the anime, but it's really basically the same thing. And it's crazy too, because with that telepathic fucking ability that he has, you know, he's talking with Vash, and at the same time he makes that little like 8-year-oldish girl walk up to him and like grabs her by the fucking head, rips the shit up, and then Vash turns around like he's about to shoot, and then Legato's just sitting here.
It's
like
a telepathic image. You're like, I never did anything.
I never did shit.
Yeah,
you know,
what are you doing?
And then the guitar riff, you know, like. Yes. They did a wonderful job.
So like in regard to like the Vash and like, or in regard to the Knives and Legato relationship, I know that you touched a little bit on that, but like as villains, like I feel like Legato was scarier than Knives was.
Well, and that's because of the anime. And because in the manga, Knives is scarier, but
he's on some other shit.
You get more of him is the thing.
You don't get a lot of them in the anime.
No, because in the anime, Vash blasts him away with the angel arm, and he's sitting in containment getting like healed basically for the last like 25 years, where the gung ho guns are getting, you know, established, or 20 years or whatever, because they're 130 years old, you know, like, but so Knives, you get to see with the Save Rem episode where they're kids on that Project Seed spaceship, and Knives starts to see the flaws of human beings, basically, because there's that one dude who's like a super broy dude.
Yeah,
he's like,
and he tries to force himself on Rem. Yeah.
Not Rem,
No,
the
not
other
Rem.
girl, the girl with the glasses. I don't even know if she has a name, but he gropes her one time and then like does some other shit.
And then she's like, chill. And then he's like,
yeah.
chill.
Yeah. Well,
How dare you?
Well, and the other like, you know, nerdy looking dude on the ship is in love with her, and so
Yeah.
And Knives basically coerces them to, you know, set that dude up to get frozen, and they like cryogenically freeze him, and he's screaming like, I didn't do anything, and he's like, he raped me. She's saying, and like that never actually happened, but Knives convinced them to do that to get him out of there. And then after that happens, that nerd dude's like, yeah, I said it, so he'll never wake up. He's dead in there, you know. And she's like, that's not what I wanted. We just wanted to freeze him. Like we wanted him to come back. Like I wasn't a part of this murder. And then that dude kills.
But then he's like,
that shit, you know. And then
the reflection on the glasses. Oh my god! And then his eyes when he tweaks out finally, bro. That's one of the scariest moments in fucking in when I was a kid, you know, coming up.
And like, it's just it's crazy how like Knives at, you know, they've only been alive for a year too. Because that guy's flipping out. He's like, they're monsters. They've only been alive for a year and they already look like they're 12 years old or whatever. You know, and it's just such a good you know, just the path to how Knives, you know, because he's like.
Because you can kind of like you see it from his point of view, and like you know you don't agree with it, but at the same time, it's like you can't help but like relate to what he's witnessing from his point of view. You know what I'm saying? Like he just doesn't have the education of what's right and wrong, but like this is his upbringing of what he's experiencing. So of course this is the path he takes.
Yeah, he's not listening to Rem.
Yeah,
he's not listening to Rem like Vash is. Like Vash is like being taught by Rem to be compassionate and loving and stuff, and they're out in that like simulated like
prairie
earth prairie exactly right, where there's like a fucking spider, there's a butterfly caught in a spider web, and the
oh my god, that analogy is incredible.
And Knives just grabs the spider and kills the spider, and Vash is like, what the hell's wrong with you? And he's like, I saved the fucking butterfly. So, you know, like he's like, I kill spiders so the butterflies can live. And Vash is like, I want them both to live. And he's like, attacks fucking Knives, and they're like getting a fist fight.
And Knives is like, how are they both gonna live? The spider's got to eat.
Yeah.
And the butterfly's not strong enough to live. So like, either the butterfly's gonna die, or we kill the spider so that the butterfly can live. Like they're not going to run into each other and go, let's talk this out, and then part their separate ways and go find food elsewhere. This is a Darwinistic ecosystem.
Yes,
where it's the you know the strong survive and the weak and the weak are eaten. You know what I'm saying?
And
like,
Knives has that point of view the whole time, where Vash is under Rem's philosophy of we can make things good for everybody if we try hard enough. Like we can do it. Like we just haven't found out the way, and that's basically the theme of that whole entire story, is that Vash will not kill anybody, and he'll put his body on the line to save anybody at any time. Even people that are pieces of shit, he'll save them and put his body on the line for them, because nobody has the right to kill another person, and that we're going to find the way, we're going to find the right way. So incredible writing in that story in regards to very much morality and right and wrong and good and evil. It was a great pick, and I love how you had that tandem pick there with Knives and Legato. They go hand in hand. They do go hand in hand. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, since that's kind of like one of your personal picks, we might as well just go into like another round of our personal picks. And honestly, I feel like it's kind of like running a little long. So let's all just do one more each, and then kind of round the conversation off. And then if we have to revisit the topic at a later time, we definitely can. Yeah. So Eagle, what do you got? What's the last one you want to talk about tonight?
The one I want to talk about, and I've talked about it a little bit before, I think in the emotional scenes, Charlotte Katakuri.
Let's go.
Hey.
I was waiting for a One Piece pick, bro, because how do you... Man, there's so many.
There is.
Yeah. I mean, to me, this is like the most... It's just the closest to home, really, because as I said in the emotional one, like, when we first meet him, he's like a stone cold type of villain where he's like all about business, badass, like, you know, highest bounty I think we had seen up until that point.
Yeah.
And he's just all about the business, getting shit done. The only one in the wedding that was like calm, collected, just like about that action, deducing what the fuck was happening. He filled the cannons with mochi and shit.
Yeah.
All that shit. And then when the fight with Luffy started, he's like, totally looking down on this motherfucker. Like, I will copy all your moves, do your shit better, make you look like an absolute fool. But
it's a mirror match, but not really, because I'm that much better than you.
Yeah.
And in more ways than one, because as he starts to kind of be moved and respect Luffy, you see how they're very similar.
Yeah.
In more, in more than just the way of their powers. Like Katakuri, when he was younger, he's a lot like Luffy in that he's like, robust, out there. Yeah, he's a goofball, and I would imagine that if he wasn't born into pretty much slavery, he probably would be someone like Luffy that wants to set out to sea and do his own thing with his life and shit.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I just liked how throughout the fight he started to respect Luffy.
Yeah, and his character is handled
that'll happen because
how can you not? Yeah, exactly what Mihawk said. Like, probably his most frightening power is the ability to rally anyone around him to his cause. And you see that in the fight, but I think one of the coolest things about Katakuri is that, like, he's introduced the way that you said, Eagle, as like this stone cold, like, you don't want to call him a henchman because you understand what his role is in the bigger picture here, but like, you think that he's just like a all for Big Mom kind of person, and he is, but you can tell that there's a little bit more to that, and you get more of his character throughout his fight with Luffy, as the fight progresses, that it's handled a little bit more, like a little bit differently in One Piece than it usually is in conventional stories, where while there's downtime, you might get a focus on a character outside of conflict. You might get focused on the villain that gives you a little bit more insight into who he is. But throughout this fight, because it's one of the only settings you see Katakuri in his combat, you get his character development and progression throughout this fight with Luffy that brings like a crazy significance to the combat that you're experiencing. And it's like, just like when he thinks he's beaten Luffy and then he goes in to go max on some donuts, you know what I'm saying? And you get like donuts. And you finally see him in the little hut with his big ass chipmunk cheeks full of fucking donuts and shit. And it's just like that good old Oda, twist and subversion, that you don't see anywhere else, that really makes you go, this is a completely different character than I thought he was. And you can tell that it's like kind of like to comedic levels, but you still take it really seriously, even though it's very lighthearted and comedic. You know what I mean? And there's just no one else that can do that besides Oda in a way that's not laughable. You're like, I'm gonna drop the book type shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, he finds a way to organically weave this humor into this, serious situation. And it's just so beautiful the way that he's able to paint that picture for you while still maintaining the stakes of the situation at hand. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And at the end, it was really crazy for me how, like, you almost realize he's someone who's trapped in fucking servitude because he realizes what he is for his family. Yeah. And can't go do his own thing because, it would be detrimental to people that he loves.
Silvers, it's the last one you want to talk about tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, since we're on the subject of One Piece, I got to talk about Blackbeard.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes,
sure.
Nice.
I mean, this guy just brushes his teeth with a 12 gauge. I swear to God. But no, I really dig Blackbeard as like villain, and the fact that Oda kind of did this whole slow burn with him, where he's first introduced, I think in the Jai arc.
Yeah.
No, Drum. Well, they talk about him first in Drum. Yeah, because he actually he wipes Drum, and that's why Wapol runs away.
Right. But when Luffy first meets Blackbeard, they have this kind of antagonistic, showdown between the two in the saloon. But he also has this kind of ideal about him. Like he has this like whole thing when it comes to, hey, don't let fate define what you can be, go out and get it and stuff like that. And then, as we see, he is far and above more of a pirate in the traditional sense than Luffy, as he's far more antagonistic, doesn't really care about the well-being of villagers and stuff like that. And
but at the same time, though, like, I feel like if we were reading this story through the eyes of Blackbeard, he needed everything the same way. we would be like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like we would be like, yeah, go ahead. You know what I mean? Like he's written in a way where obviously he's opposing the main character, so you have to root for his demise,
right?
But he, at the same time, it's like if we were pirates in this world, we would probably be going about it a similar way as him,
right?
Yeah.
And he really picks up the villain title when he goes after Ace.
Yeah.
And
Essential.
Yeah.
Like you can't use that word with me. That's disrespectful to call me that shit.
Yeah.
Man, I love that so much.
Hell yeah.
But we find out that not only, you know, him going after Ace, but we find out that he was also part of Ace's crew, and he just straight up murdered one of their crew, which is Whitebeard's.
Had to get that fruit, baby.
Had to get that fruit. And, you know, as we come to learn, you know, Whitebeard's crew is a family, so him killing a brother, you know, that ain't gonna fly with Ace.
Yeah.
No.
Fuck no.
Yeah.
And
the dialogue that they have, like, even says so, where he's like, "Hey, you understand the magnitude of this situation? Like, you killed one of us, right?
Yeah.
Like, don't fucking play dumb when I'm talking to you right now." Like, I just love how Ace addressed that whole shit right there.
Yeah, straight up.
And then, you know, they have their fight, and of course, you know, Ace unfortunately loses because fucking
Blackbeard's broken.
Blackbeard's a monster. He's got the darkness fruit, and then. To add insult to injury, he's not only the one that turns in Ace, but, you know, shows up at Marineford having just broken out the worst of the worst from Impel Down.
Yes.
Recruits them. And this is like, in the moment, you know, this is, you know, Marineford had been going on for some time. Both Whitebeard and the Marines have seen some casualties. Whitebeard himself has this hole in his
gaping hole in his chest. Stab wound through the heart on some Jesus of Nazareth shit. Squardo's bitch ass.
Damn. Oh my god. And, you know, just decides to, hey, you know, you're my adoptive father. I'm just gonna take your shit now.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And it's so massive, like knowing, like thinking back to that after, especially what's happening in the current story in the manga, which I don't really need to go into, but it just adds like new weight to that entire situation. You know what I mean? So
and you know, going back to what you said of how much of a threat he is now the person to wield two devil fruits at the same time, and pretty much declares Whitebeard's era is over. This is the new age.
Yeah, yeah, and how his character is handled in the story. You know, where he's not like conventional in regard to even though he has the raw power to deal with of the vast majority of the cast that we've seen so far, he still employs like sneaky behind the back, like backdoor underhanded tactics to get where he's going, even though he could really just come in and wipe pretty much anybody that he wants to, probably. And I think that has like a lot to do with Oda hiding those kind of conflicts for later events, but also establishing his character as someone who's a little bit more tactical than you would originally see, because he's kind of like painted a little bit to be like a coward in some regard, because how much pain he shows when he takes damage, which like goes into like the darkness fruit that he has, which doubles his physical damage that he takes, which is a good caveat to have for it. But it's offset by the fact that he has two devil fruits, so it's like, but
he also as a D, he also showed like cowardliness in the face of death.
The only one.
Seen which everybody else that has the D initial laugh in the face of death. But
I don't want to go into that whole conversation,
but yeah, I mean, he's the guy that he was the guy that threw Ace in jail. So I mean, Luke pissed off at him, and now he's hell bent on becoming, you know, the #1 pirate.
Yeah, straight up.
And yeah, he's got the power to do so if, you know, left unchecked.
Yeah, straight up. Straight up. Blackbeard's a good pick. Well, the last pick that I have here to kind of round the conversation off is kind of like dipping back into the realm of the obscure a little bit, but still a classic at the same time, because the story that I'm talking about here is a character from Paranoia Agent, and we're talking about Little Slugger, baby, because Little Slugger in Little Slugger in Paranoia Agent is one of the more interesting villains that I have on my list, and one of the more interesting villains that I've seen in anime, because he isn't really a person.
I would say he's not real.
Monster. Yeah, exactly. He's not something like physical that can be beaten conventionally. You know what I mean? Like he's just a manifestation of depression, anxiety,
all your fears,
and pretty much any other psychological turmoil that someone can experience. And he's like the Freddy Krueger, or like the boogeyman, you know, of mental illness. You know what I mean?
Yes,
yeah, you know what I mean? And it's like, and when I'm going through this as a kid, I don't really know what I'm seeing. You know what I mean? And the entire time from like when you see him first encounter in the first episode, the main character is, it's been so long since Sagiri. It's been so long since I've seen it.
I don't remember either.
I think it's Sagiri. I don't know. Someone correct me if you want to. But this is all off of memories from 2005. So
yeah,
so
long time ago.
Yeah, but it was just such a cool villain because of the concept behind it. And it's not until I entered adulthood and looked back on the series, you know, and seeing, you know, articles or seeing people talking about it on the internet, that I realized that it wasn't a character at all. And it was literally just these
people imagination.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, and you have these people that have these, you know, fucked up pasts where they rack up all of this psychological, you know, trauma and all of this moral debt. And, you know, and Little Slugger kind of torments them up until he baps them, you know, with his crooked ass baseball bat and kind of like, you know, releases them from this mental burden that they have. And it's like this amazingly written, you know, thing. Like, I respect it and I appreciate it a lot more now, you know, than I did back then, because I just thought that this was just like a Freddy Krueger, Jason, Michael, you know, Myers, you know, style, you know, bad guy, you know, that this horror, you know, villain that, you know, that just came and got you eventually at the end of the episode. You know what I mean? You can't really understand. I mean, at least I didn't really understand it when I was a kid, but
definitely closer to Freddy Krueger than it's in your mind. And like, I remember one episode in particular, and I don't remember exactly what was going on, but somebody was like talking out their fears or whatever to kind of like face them and get over them, and it was just a silhouette of Little Slugger, because all he is really a shadow, just with the bat like getting bigger and bigger.
But he's floating through he's skating back and forth in a zigzag, like, getting closer and closer. Like, yeah, dude.
And you're like, is somebody about to get beat with this bat? But no, because he's not real.
Exactly.
And it's like
crazy. And it makes you ask questions like, how do you, like, once you realize what's going on, it's like, how do you deal with this? You know what I mean? Like,
you have to face yourself.
Yes, exactly. And it's just a new kind of villain that is just so new, and I don't think it's really ever been done like that again, at least in anything that I've seen. So I thought that would be a great antagonist to bring up, you know, at the tail.
Hey, how about the opening where they're all just like laughing? Everybody's just sitting there laughing. It's like uncomfortable laughing, like they're laughing over their pain.
Yes.
And each one of them is laughing like to hide their pain.
And you can see in their facial expressions that like they're not laughing because they're happy. No. You know what I mean? Yeah, like this is like a Joker toxin type situation. You know what I mean?
It was so off-putting. And you're just like, that's how you start every episode. And you're like,
but that's one of the best opening songs ever. I don't know why I like the yodeling, but like,
Wasn't that on Adult Swim for a while?
Yeah, straight up. Yeah, it was definitely on Adult Swim.
That show used to be terrifying.
Dude, it was so scary as a kid because you didn't know what you're seeing. You know what I mean?
I'm like, why is this dude skating around binking on motherfuckers with this golden ass bat?
And it's like, and then when you're a kid, you're like, this kid's a child. Body slam this motherfucker, bro. Like,
but he gets swollen.
Yeah, but he gets big, and then his face, like there's one like scene where he like just like has like this like monstrous ass like face with like these sharp teeth and like these psycho eyes and shit, and you're just like, get me out of here. Yeah. I wanted to. I felt like little
radio on roller skates, but then he comes and beats your ass.
But I thought that Little Slugger would be a cool thing to end it on for anybody that made it.
That really is. Good pick.
Were you guys expecting that?
No, hell no.
Yeah. Hell yeah. But
nice.
But yeah, man, thank you guys for another amazing discussion. Silvers, thanks for joining us tonight. Finally, like I was saying, slowly but surely, I'm trying to bring all of our people into the fold. For those who don't know, Project Manga was a group chat in the beginning of it all, and Silvers is a ranking old timer at this point of that group chat. So we're all a family in it, and it's always great to have people from that setting on the show, so we can kind of bring some of that energy from that group chat to you guys on the internet. So thank you for participating. Thank you guys for the discussion. That's going to do it for another incredible episode of Tangential Tie-Ins. I should probably let you know down in the description, I'm going to have timestamps for any of the manga that we might have spoiled throughout the series or throughout the episode. Also, that's where you're going to find all of our links to all of our social media and all of our online communities. I'm also going to put the @ and the link for the extra dimensional pop culture aesthetic page that Silvers is at the head of nowadays. And that's also going to be where you can find all of our audio streaming platforms that we exist on, like Spotify, Apple Music, Stitcher, and whatnot. But yeah, that's gonna do it. Feel free to drop your favorite villain, in the comments down below. Let us know if we touched on everyone that you think we should. I know that we obviously can't get to everybody in such a short time, but this is another topic where it's very easy to have a second or even third iteration of. So just let us know what you want. Let us know if we should do a round 2 of this anytime in the near future. But otherwise, we'll see you guys next week. I'm gonna go ahead and sign off. I'm Noxie.
It's your boy Kiko.
Eagle.
Silvers.
And we'll catch y'all next time.